Here.
Deborah Potter,
Here.
Kevin Whipple,
Here.
Bill Ernst.
Present. Agenda approval.
I make a motion, we approve the submitted agenda.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved. Did everybody get a chance to read the minutes from the special meeting and the meeting, or the meeting of September 1st? Any corrections or changes or additions or?
I have none, if there's no discussion to be had, I'll make a move, that we approve both of them.
I'll second it.
Do one at a time or both out here.
All those in favor say aye. Approved. John, financial report, please.
Financial report for the Greensburg Municipal Airport. We have the three separate accounts. In our airport improvement account, current balance, $245,306.17. In our aviation rotary fuel account, $57,881.63. And you'll see we just made a $40,000 payment there in September. And in the airport operation account, $409,867.22. The total for all three accounts combined, $713,055.02.
Any further discussion on that? Move on. Mr. Schaefer.
Yes, we've got a few action items tonight, and I'm actually only going to address the first three. The fourth one's going to be handled under Don Tribbitt's report. So the first motion is on AIP number 16, partial pay request, number 17 to the FAA in the total amount of $317,347.75. And that's 100% federally funded. And that is covering the expenses from the last meeting. We approved a progress estimate for HIS that was over the allowable Fed fund draw at that time. And then HIS progress estimate number 2, that's in motion number 2 there for the $189,159.92. Sorry, I forgot the comma there. So that's what those two, and that's on grade and drain HIS payment to date and to get the federal funds coming back to you.
I make a motion, we approve the partial pay request application number 17 to the FAA in the amount of $317,347.75.
Second. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
I'll also make a motion to approve the contractor's progress estimate number 12 for HIS construction in the amount of $189,159.92.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay. And item number 3 is AIP 20, partial pay request number 5, in the total amount of $22,863.61. And this is on the Dave O'Mara contract, the runway 119 paving and lighting portion.
Make a motion to submit AIP 20 partial pay request application number 5 in the amount of $22,863.61.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Okay.
Approved.
And we'll just skip over number 4 until we get to Mr. Tribbitt's report on just progress reporting. That first bullet point under grade and drain on the reviewing of the survey to determine HIS is progress. So that's complete. Our review is done. There were quite a few areas where the grade where they're at now did not hit the final design grade. So we've issued a letter of correction on that and asked for them to go out there and keep working. We don't see an issue getting them wrapped up this fall. While there's quite a bit more to do on those cross sections, we think they can get it done. And so that's a good thing. The plan is still to have them off the site this fall, and O'Mara wasn't planning to start this fall anyway, except for the tree clearing. So that shouldn't hold O'Mara up at this point. We hope to have, on the paving and lighting side, O'Mara out on April 1st. They have started the electrical ordering and shop drawings and all that. So hopefully all the materials are here and ready to go on April 1st. And the trees have been cleared by then. So that's that. And then the bipartisan infrastructure bill, they've opened up the dollars for 22 money, but because we have this potential amendment request in on the extra fill, which didn't turn out to be nearly as much as what HIS had thought it was. Right now, we're about 12,000 yards extra, and so quite frankly, it'll kind of depend on how things balance out. Now, we had a lot more inspection time that we'd like to ask the FAA for those additional dollars rather than have you guys pay for that. So there will be an amendment amount, but it's going to be much, much less than the $500,000 that we were talking about before. It's probably in the $150,000 to $200,000 range. But regardless, we've committed that the bipartisan infrastructure money would go towards the amendments or anything else we need. And then if we fund the amendments and we get that all satisfied, then we've agreed that it would also go to the land reimbursements in this next fiscal year, which will be on the CIP, which takes us to the last agenda item. NDOT has moved up the CIP deadline to December 1st. It used to be February 1st. But the reason for that is now we have, we have pre-apps due to the FAA by December 1st. So by starting this earlier, it helps everybody work through the process a little sooner. Yours, not a ton of change from what we had, which is going to be reimbursed land. There's not a big change up in your CIP, so that shouldn't be too controversial. But I'll bring the revised CIP to the next meeting, and we can work it out there. So that concludes my report. Goddard's, yeah. Yeah, so all along the west side, there have been field tiles that have been encountered throughout the project that we have connected into our drainage system, whether that is outletting into a drainage basin or connecting at a storm manhole. And we've done that along the way. And Goddard has a specific tile that they've requested that they get specific permission to connect to. We've done it all along, and those tiles, the surface and any subsurface drainage from those western fields were factored into our drainage design. So there's really no reason not to allow that. We've allowed the other tiles to connect already from Beggs and Sturgey's property along there. So we see no issue with it, and I don't even know that the board really needs to take an official motion on it, but you should be aware. The plans and specs address this, that any existing field tile or any modifications to existing field tile that need to connect to our system would be allowed, and there's some notes in there. And so it's part of it, but I think they just wanted to make sure that the airport was not going to come along and take it back out. It's there.
Good.
Thank you.
Privet.
Good evening. As you are aware, I think we're making some significant progress with regard to acquisition of land and easements as necessary for the project. I had sent you previously a copy of a proposed agreement between Mark D. Haston and Shirley Faye Haston and the airport with regard to resolution of their litigation. Involves some additional payment as referenced in that agreement, and also involves the airport giving back to the Hastons three easements to cross the property that you have appropriated from the Hastons in order to get to the 17 acres that they are retaining, and you're actually getting a navigation easement over that 17 acres. But if you had the opportunity to review the agreement, unless you have questions or concerns, I am recommending that you approve agreement for purchase, sale of real estate to resolve all issues in eminent domain litigation between Mark D. and Shirley Faye Haston and the Greensburg Board of Aviation Commissioners.
Any discussion? I'll move that we make such approval.
Second.
Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Approved.
Then the other one, the other agreement that I had sent to you is a proposed agreement between Mr. and Mrs. Beggs and the Board of Aviation Commissioners. This one's a bit more complicated, and the reason is because there are some cross easements that are being given. As you know, the county is in the process of putting in a new maintenance garage out there, and so that has complicated the issue a little bit with regard to drainage. So the Beggses had requested some additional funds as referenced in the agreement that I sent you in order to be able to relocate a tractor path and also then to make sure that all of their drainage is on their property so that we don't have to give them an easement, and so that they don't have to get on airport property at a later time if any maintenance of their on-property drainage is needed. So we have been in discussions with the county commissioners, and the end result of all of that is that we're proposing to give the county a drainage easement across airport property to get to the airport's drainage system, and in exchange the county would grant to the Greensburg Board of Aviation Commissioners one ingress-egress easement that is specifically described, and that would allow you access to the terminal and the airport property. I think probably it was an oversight that this wasn't granted previously, and then also a second egress easement, which is not described at present because the county is planning on some additional work out there. So that particular other easement would not be specifically described until such time as they decide exactly what it is they're going to do. But the document that has been prepared, I prepared in conjunction with BF&S, the document would provide for the current grant of an ingress-egress easement 40 feet wide and the future grant of a second ingress-egress easement in exchange for the drainage easement. And again, you've seen that. My recommendation is that with regard to the settlement agreement between the airport and Mr. and Mrs. Beggs, that you approve that agreement. It does have in it a provision that we're going to grant the county the drainage easement. So my recommendation is that you approve that agreement contingent upon the county executing the ingress egress easement. And then secondly, and it probably needs to be done in a separate motion, but then also that you would approve the granting of the actual drainage easement to the county, again, contingent upon the county granting the ingress egress easement. So I know that's a little complicated, but, and if you have questions, I'll be glad to go over those. But that's my recommendations. I think the first action I would recommend is that you approve the agreement for purchase, sale of real estate to resolve all issues in eminent domain litigation between Charles W. Beggs and Diane E. Beggs and the Greensburg Board of Aviation Commissioners, contingent upon the county approving the granting of the ingress egress easement.
In the discussion, I would make a motion, we approve that. I'm not gonna repeat what he said, but that's what I propose right there.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
And then finally, on the, as far as action items, I would recommend that you approve the drainage easement subject to or contingent upon the county granting the ingress egress easement.
Make a motion that happen also.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Approved.
And finally, just no action, but just a brief report. The old saying, misery loves company. So I'm glad to admit that Paul and Jean and I were all wrong. Steve Lowe has accepted your $41,000 offer, so we are in the process of concluding that settlement. And the only thing we're waiting on right now is there is a mortgage on the property, and Mr. Lowe is approaching his bank to get the bank to sign off on approving the granting of the aviation easement. So that's, again, it's just a report. Hopefully we'll get that resolved soon, and you'll be in a position, you've already approved the payment, so it's not a matter of you needing to do any action on that tonight, just a report. So if there are any questions on any of that, I'll be glad to answer those. Okay, that's all I have.
Thank you, Don.
Thank you.
John Clare's not here. Paul, do you want to report on John Clare's?
I think I've already said enough.
Good enough. Jerry?
Okay, first of all, we still got, hangars are all full. We have 4 people on a waiting list. Actually, we got 6 people on a waiting list, but 2 of them can only have a hangar if Todd Reed moves out, because that's the only hangar big enough for the planes they want to put in there. So I really don't consider them.
Who's that?
Dick Fogg. And the guy from Batesville's got the Meridian.
Okay.
So, and otherwise, I give each of you guys a list of the current hangars and what they rent for and who the occupants are. And Bill had asked me to come up with something, what if we do a rate increase, what it amount to, and so, he suggested either 10% or 12.5. So I'll give you the figures of what the rent for now and what the difference would be, both monthly and annually. And the only suggestion I would make is if you go with the 12.5%, that you allow the clerk to round off to the nearest dollar, just to save confusion in the billing. But other than that, it's all up to you guys on that. And the same way, I don't know if you guys are going to talk about getting the mower or not, but I gave you that information at the last meeting we had. And so unless somebody's got questions, I really don't have anything else to add on that.
I don't have any questions other than you gave us some choices, you being the guy.
I went to 4 local
I know.
outfits and got their prices on them.
I know, is there one, you're kind of hesitant to make a choice, a recommendation
In
yourself?
my
You're the guy
opinion,
out mowing the grass, so what do you,
I think it's just whatever color you like, I
whatever
mean,
the color?
I'm sure any of these would do the job,
You don't strongly favor one over the other, or?
I really don't don't think it'd probably make that much difference. I think they're probably, the one we had a question on, the power gearbox rating, and Bill talked to the guy, and actually it was more than what was on the paperwork. It should be pretty much equal to the others, I guess,
Okay.
on the John Deere, so. So yeah, you know, I don't know how soon you guys are gonna make a decision on this. The only one down at Let's, right there along the highway where that place is at Let's, they actually had a mower there. You could actually go look at one. The others were just talking numbers on paper, but you know, they actually have one there. It's not that big, but it would be the same design.
That's question 2 is available, like if we order, how long does it take? That might be one of the
Yeah,
deciding factors.
when they-
Get the item in.
I wrote on there what some of them said, you know, like one of them said it'd be like January or so, and the other guy said maybe May. One guy said no way to tell, but, you know, so I'm sure the way most of them talk, we could have one in time to use next year.
Just a quick question, and I'm just curious. Who came up, or did you do any analysis to come up with that we need a 20-foot wide?
That's because we can't find a 25. With the amount of acreage we have to mow, we got a tractor big enough to handle it, why not mow as much as you can per swath? I just threw out 20 foot knowing that, they are out there, you know.
Okay.
And, I'm not sure if there are some bigger than that, but I don't know. I have not seen one around myself. So, but I guess the 15 footers are more readily available, but, when you're driving through there, why not take a few more feet while you're at it?
Paul, will we be responsible for mowing after HIS has left the site?
Yes.
Okay.
Is that grade on the south end going to be difficult to mow? I mean, just,
There are some areas out there that are too steep for a tractor. But they're not in the area of the new construction, or like between the runway area and, Beggs's. You know, it's real short distance between the runway and their property line, and it's rather steep through there. And I ain't so sure we'd hardly be able to mow it. Possibly with a lawnmower, but even then, it would be maybe kind of touchy.
we can get you out there with a scythe or something, just use my hand.
Well, at least I'll use a weed eater.
Yeah.
But, yeah, I just have to see, according to what Paul told me once upon, or was it Zach last year said that the percentage of grade should be sufficient or safe to put a tractor on for everything they're supposedly doing on site.
Yeah, in the site proper, it's supposed to be 6% or less. But some of the edges that were existing, that we're tying into, might exceed the 6%, so.
Yeah, 45 degrees.
Yeah, 25%, yeah, so, I mean, I guess if there's a specific area that you have concern on, we could have O'Mara or somebody try to knock it down or flatten it out.
Well, now there's some areas that could have been, that are like, besides being on hillside, we've got hills and valleys in, which if you try and go across that with a tractor and mower would be hard on the equipment, if nothing else. You know, be either scalping at the top of the high spot and missing it in the low spot, things like that, so. But that all remains to be seen, I guess, what we end up doing. I guess the only other thing, and Paul can maybe offer insight on this, if we are allowed to, like, allow someone to grow hay on the site, that would decrease the amount of acres we need to mow. And that being said, maybe we don't have to have as big a mower, so.
Like I said, I was just curious if there was any analysis done
I guess-
as to why we came up with that, so.
I don't know if Paul wants to elaborate a little bit on that as far as if we can have hay growing on it or not, you know, and, I'll kind of turn it over to him.
Thank you, Jerry.
Yeah, so if you subtract out the pavement area, which is about 20 acres, you're gonna have basically 130 acres of mowing to do, with the new area. So it's a lot of acreage, so I think to Jerry's point, I don't know that we've done any math on that, but the big biggest mower you can get would be good. That said, what Jerry's talking about is, there are a lot of airports that do allow hay. And so we, and even inside the runway safety area, you can allow the grass to grow up 18 inches in the runway safety area. You need to make sure the lights can be seen at all times. But when you go to cut that hay and take it off, the runway has to be closed. Anytime you have equipment inside the runway safety area, which is gonna be 250 feet each side of the runway center line. And that's over 500 foot wide swath down the middle. So everything outside of that, the property basically is a little over 800, about 900 feet wide. So you've got 400 feet on the edges. You could definitely grow as much hay as you wanted to out there. And then as you go inside, you just want to use some common sense not to get it so close where it's going to mess with the lights and things like that. But you can do that, and then to do 18 inches, it usually is 5 or 6 cuttings a year, depending on the weather and so forth like that. And when you do it, you want to make sure when they cut the bales, they pull them all outside that 250 foot from runway center line, because you can't have any objects in there, even hay bales sitting around or anything like that. Yeah, but it's possible, and a lot of places, some, if you have really good hay ground, they might get a little money off of it, but most of it do in exchange, because you save a lot of labor mowing in exchange for somebody to cut all that and get it off of there. So we'd have to look at that. You all would know more about what hay ground goes for around here and whether it would be that productive. I'm guessing that this site is not going to be all that productive. It's mostly fill material. It's not very good, topsoil type materials.
And I'm gonna come back for something here. All right, so, the 18-inch height max, I don't know how many farmers would be willing to come in there every 3 weeks or whatever and cut short hay like that. There's really not very much hay in 18 inches, for them to spend just as much time mowing, raking, and baling as they would for nice tall growth. So I'm going to almost guess that 250 feet each side of the center line will have to keep mowed all the time. So, and that's still going to be quite a few acres at that. So.
We have that little 3-cornered patch that belong to Beggs that can grow up in hay.
Well, I think anything outside 250 feet would be considered, but that's probably where we should figure on if we can let somebody bale hay on it, that was where it would be. But I'm just about going to bet if we want to keep that to the 18 inches or less, that we're going to have to just keep that mowed, because I don't think very many farmers want to mess with it for that short of it. So.
The 130 acres that you were talking about is with the blacktop part as well, correct? Or is that not? No.
The total fee simple acquisition totals up to be about 155 acres.
Okay. So the 130 is what actually outside of the blacktop?
That's everything that's growing something on there.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the 250 feet is from the center of the blacktop out?
Correct.
Okay. So we're talking 50 or 200 feet on each side?
200 feet each side, we'd have to keep mowing.
Then we'd have to keep moving. And the outside 200, we could.
And out between the pavement and the runway lights, we're probably doing the lawnmower.
So we could cut the 130 acres, maybe to 70, something like that, maybe.
Say that again.
We could
How
cut
many
the
acres would
130
it
acres
actually be
down
if we
to,
done just the 200 feet around it?
just down to,
Oh, I don't know. I can come up with a drawing and kind of give you some areas.
I'm an analytical person.
The runway
I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I'm not trying to be
If
difficult.
5,400 feet times 200 feet, or 400 feet, and then divide by 42,560.
I did 100 acres and just figured it out.
He'll have you a quick thing here in a second.
And you could mow it with a 20-footer. If you could run 5 miles an hour, you can mow it in 8 hours.
Well, and we're looking at, then the two, weather, availability to do it when it needs done, things like that. And
I understand that.
So it's about 50 acres, the 200 foot outside. Yeah, so, or
That's per side,
per side.
so that's still 100 acres?
No, that's total.
That's total?
That's both sides. yeah.
Okay.
That wouldn't be hay.
I'm
Assuming
I'm sorry,
Around 50-ish acres that you couldn't grow hay in very easily, to Jerry's point. But if you gotta keep it below 18 inches, nobody's
Right.
gonna want hay, so
Okay.
you have to mow that. And I don't know, like down there in the floodplain area on the way south end, I don't know how much hay they're gonna grow down in there and that stuff. I don't, yeah, but,
Well, as long as it's, hay should be able to grow there, and it's, the incline's not so steep, they couldn't cut
okay.
hay on it.
Okay, yeah. And you, of the outside acreage, you have some retention ponds and some
Yeah,
swales.
there's some areas there we won't
They
be-
may not be able to grow in.
Yeah, we've got, that remains to be seen how good stuff grows inside the retention ponds.
Right.
We may have to mow those with lawnmower too.
Right.
like I said, I just was asking some questions, just curious on the, is 20 foot more really what we need, and after we analyze it, or, do we get by with something a little smaller, a little cheaper? Just asking questions.
Well, it said here again, it don't matter to me that, you're gonna be trading cost up front versus cost every time, fuel and time when you're doing the mowing. The smaller mower's gonna take longer to do the job every time, so. So, at some point in time, there's a trade-off, but,
I understand, I know, I wouldn't wanna send you out there with an old 7 or 8 foot bush hog, that probably wouldn't work too well. I don't, but I'm just, yeah, and I don't know what a 15 footer costs, but I do know they're more readily available, but, so, I'm just curious as to whether a 15 footer might be more feasible is all, and would it cover the ground in enough time? And like I said, just asking questions.
yeah, well, we got the horsepower to handle either one. And, at this point in time, we're not needing one until next spring. And I imagine if we'll be able to get either size by then.
Thank you, Jerry, I appreciate the information.
So Bill, are we wanting to do anything on this mowing?
Let's put it on the agenda for next month to make a decision on which, you've still got the paperwork from the last four. I have two.
Bill, the only thing to keep in mind, all these guys let it be known that they couldn't guarantee the price very long because things keep changing rapidly here nowadays.
Well, that ain't delivery.
Yeah. The longer you wait to order it, the longer it'd be for
Might be
them.
a 3 month wait now, there might be a 6 month wait until we wait till next month. I'm just throwing it out there.
I would be more concerned about the price going up, waiting another month, actually.
But I don't have it here. The brochure for, I don't have a strong preference on which one we use.
I'm gonna throw out my 2 cents too. I really don't want people baling hay out there. To maybe close the runway 3 or 4 times a year. Running into the light, if they get too close. I don't know. That's my 2 cents on that. And you're not gonna make any money, it doesn't sound like. You might save a little on the labor. But that's my 2 cents on the hay.
Since you've got all 4 of them together,
I do.
would you,
I like the John Deere one.
I do too.
It's local. The only one cheaper is the one out of Letts. I'd rather deal right, you go across the bypass and you're at John Deere if you got a problem. And it's the cheapest one other than the one from Letts. John Deere has good reputation. They say a January delivery. I'd be surprised.
What's the price on that?
It's $32,500. Woods, which is Miller's, came in at $33,000. The Letts one was $29,742, and 363.
Make a motion.
I make a motion with the uncertain times that we go ahead and approve purchase of the John Deere apparatus at $32,500.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion on it? All those in favor say aye.
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 I vote no.
Okay. Pass 4-1. Okay, hangar prices. Jerry gave us a sheet here with the hangar prices. Current annual revenue is $80,760. At 10% interest would be $88,836. And at 12.5% would be $90,855. And I personally would like to see us go with the 12.5%. And give us time to get a letter out to all the hangar owners of what the increase will be. We're going to be needing to get some revenue.
Effective the first of the year.
Effective the first of the year.
I'll just make the point that the proposal to raise the rent on our fine renters in these inflationary times come from our Republican member of the board, so.
Hey, John, we'll raise the rent for everybody except board members.
Oh, yeah, that'll go real well. That'll go real well. Kind of ambivalent of whether to raise or not. I should probably abstain, I'm a renter, so I would be a conflict of interest anyway, so.
What's driving this? Just
We're going to be needing funds to,
Is Republican greedy? That's what it is.
my goal is to keep it as near as possible that the airport is sufficient on its own, that we don't have to go back to the city for tax funds. We've, except for the $500,000 that Mayor Mattis gave us, we have been totally self-sufficient. And I'm extremely proud of the fact that we've been that way. I don't, do you know of any other airports in Indiana that?
Not very many.
There are a few, but not, most of them, there are a few that are self-sufficient, and it's actually in your grant assurances that you're supposed to try to be self-sufficient and revenue neutral if you can. There are a few, but most of them have other assets that they make their money off of. A lot of cropland. For example, Seymour. Seymour has 2,200 acres of cropland that they rent out, as well as an industrial park. Columbus as well has a huge industrial park on the airport. North Vernon, though, is a comparable size to you all, a few more acres, they're 750 acres, but they are pretty self-sufficient. And so, yeah, and you know, with more to maintain, it's going to be more of a challenge, but I think as your bigger aircraft in and you start selling fuel and you own your own fueling operation, you know, the normal margin on jet fuel is $1 a gallon, and your fuel uploads will start going from 100 gallons of upload to, you know, fill a small twin to 1,000 gallons to fill a jet. So I think, you know, there's opportunities to remain revenue neutral, but you do have to be conscientious of making every dollar you can off of what you have. And right now, your hangars are your biggest income, so it makes sense to me.
And the city bought the airport, was it December 2007? When did we get the 2009?
2006. No, 7.
7, I think that's right. So we had that, all, we not had any increases since then?
That was my next question. When was the last time we increased hangar
I don't
rent?
think we've ever increased it, kind of established it at
We-
that time.
Oh, we need to go 20%.
I would, I'll just make a motion. I make a motion that we go 10%, and the only reason I say that rather than 12.5 is it's more in line with the actual inflation rate that we're seeing across country right now.
I second that.
Any further discussions? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All in state, Richard's all in state. Yeah. There you go. Still passes.
All right, 10% increase.
And do we want, I'm sorry, do we want to round it to the nearest dollar?
The 12.5% was the nearest dollar. wasn't it?
Well, the 10% will come out even dollars.
I think you got 151.80, 173.80,
On 10%?
195.80.
I think that's the,
Yep.
that's the.
Okay. Yeah, I think the
That's
clerk
the
would
tie
appreciate
down,
it.
I think, isn't it? The sheet's the tie downs, isn't it?
No, that's.
That's the rent? Well,
Left side column is the current, and then the right side of each row is what the
It says-
increase would be.
okay, I'm confused then, because this says plus 10% here and plus 12.5 here.
So the column on the left is a 10% increase, and the column on the right's 12.5, what the difference would be.
This sheet then is the actual,
That's what we're doing right now.
right now. Okay, so I don't see where we're coming up with any 50 cent, 80 cent.
Well, like, right now it's 135. At 10%, it would become 140.50. Because 10% of that is 13.50.
Well, yeah, I guess I spoke wrong, and whatever,
I'm trying to-
I agree the
I'm just
nearest
trying to
dollar.
figure out how
Saves
this translates
confusion.
across, so. Okay.
Okay. Moving on, approval of bills.
Do we want to round it up to the next dollar then, or?
I think you should, yeah.
Running up the next highest dollar?
Yeah, I'll amend the motion, raise it 10% and round it up to the next dollar.
Second on that amended motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Same.
Everybody had a chance to look at the bills?
Notice I haven't summarized again, the only thing that comes up annually, the QPOD service agreement for 1425. You'll see it was the same thing back in 2021, same fee. Everything else looked pretty much in order.
I do want to ask the city clerk treasurer's office, why we got it's not on here, but we got a $32 late fee.
Yeah, I got that email too. I don't know what that would be. You know, we did buy 2 loads of fuel in
And usually
September.
the late fee is when we pay late.
Well, unless one of those bills didn't get paid, I don't know what else it'd be for.
I don't either. Okay. Back to the bills.
You can take that out of the retirement, so.
Yeah.
There you go.
Get out of Jerry's wages.
I make a motion, we approve the bills as submitted.
I'll second that.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Approved. Okay. Any comments from the board or the audience? If not, I'll accept a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to
Meet
adjourn.
November.
I'll second the adjourned motion.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Meeting adjourned.